obviously so. You see. And with Marcel, analogously. And of course, in Kierkegaard, authentic existence is gaining relationship to God. You see, so there's no authenticity alone. And it's not surprising then that somebody like Sartre, who tends to see relationships as masochistic or sadistic, and is irreligious, ends up by saying there's no meaning to it all. Yeah, in his big work, Being and Nothingness, he has no discussion of love. No, he has discussion of sexuality, but it's all about masochism and sadism. You see? No positive, nurturing kind of relationship involved. And reason for that? Well, his phenomenology begins to explain it, describe it. The explanation ultimately, I think, is twofold. One, biographical. His autobiography, a thing called Words, is quite revealing. But other than that is the fact that in Sartre there's a dialectic that goes on between what he calls l'en-soi and le pour-soi. L'en-soi is simply what is in itself. Pour-soi is what is for itself. Now, does that echo a Kant? The thing in itself, the thing for me? It's Kantian language, you see. The thing is that the self-conscious individual is concerned with, yes, the world as it is for me, you see. And is blocked all the time by the intransigence of the world as it is in itself. How many of you have read Sartre's play, No Exit? Okay, half a dozen of you maybe. Do it. The rest of you, I was going to say bums, do it. My goodness, what have you been doing with yourself all your lives? You'll read it in an hour, if you can stand it. But you see, it's a picture of three individuals, 2 women and a man, in a room from which there's no exit. Oh, it turns out there's a door that's open that you just can't bring themselves to leave. You see. It's a dramatic setting of hell. This is the afterlife. And they're living with their pasts. Here they have to put up with each other. And they try to make up to each other. And as 2 of them seem to be doing pretty well, either the third one breaks it up, or else one of them does something which destroys any possible relationship. And you get a dramatic picture of this, the individual who wants this other one for self being negated by the other, which is what it is in itself. You see? Until at the end of the play you get the line, hell is other people. All right, let's get on with it. End of play. The antithesis without a synthesis. The antithesis of l'en-soi, le pour-soi, without a synthesis. And that stands in marked contrast to Marcel, who has a play with another threesome in it, a play called The Man of God, a Protestant pastor in France, whose relationship with his wife leaves something to be desired, and whose daughter is about to run away from home. You get the picture? And just as the crisis seemed to be about to burst, knock on the door brings in one of the parishioners with her baby, desperately wanting the pastor's help. So he tends to the parishioner, and then when he comes back to the others, he says, they all say, well, now it's for people like that we have to live. Now, I just said that Marcel is repudiating Sartre. I think Man of God is a conscious repudiation of no exit. Yes. Where instead of le pour soi, wanting for myself, there's a notion of giving of oneself, which is the basis for meaningful relationship. So it's interesting contrast then between these two groups. All right, let's say a few things about Kierkegaard. Oh, incidentally, one other of the religious types is a Russian Orthodox, Nicholas Berdyaev. So you get variety of Judeo-Christian traditions in there. All right, Kierkegaard, mid-19th century Danish thinker, educated in Germany, time of Hegel. And I think it's fair to say that the central theme in Kierkegaard, which in a way sets the pace for later existentialism, is the theme of becoming a person. Which for Kierkegaard is becoming a Christian. But this is, of course, the question, what is it to be a person in this kind of a world? And you find Kierkegaard criticizing the inadequacies of both the Enlightenment account of a person and the Romanticist account of things. Enlightenment and Romanticism, neither sufficient. We're not rational animals. We're not primarily related to external things. We're not filled with creative spirit that's just wonderful. No, those images are dead, false optimisms. You see. Rather, he talks about two paths to becoming a Christian. And this is most systematically developed in his work called A Concluding Unscientific Postscript. A little bit of his famous irony in that title. It's about 400 pages, hardly a postscript, unscientific, to say the least. You know, what existentialists would draw on 18th century, 19th century science anyway. What would it enlighten? So forth. But the two paths to becoming a Christian that he talks about are the objective and the subjective paths. You see? Now, the objective path is the path of natural theology, or the path of historical evidences. And his complaint about that is various. One is the indecisiveness of the rational. Because you know the way it is with arguments and evidence. There are counter-arguments. So you always have to respond to the counter-argument. And then there's an argument to the counter-argument, and you have to respond to that counter-argument to the counter-argument. And then there's a counter-argument to your counter to the counter to the counter-argument, and so on and so forth. And there's always something else that has to be done. Reminds me of a friend of mine who, back in the 50s, was going to write a little book on a certain topic. And he kept saying, well, there's something else come out, another article in a journal I haven't looked at, and so he postponed it till that. It's now 92. He's retired, and the book never was written. You see. Yeah. Well, Kierkegaard sees that, you see. That's the tendency of the Germanic scholar. 19th century German scholarship. You know, you remember that 3-volume German introduction to the elephant? Remember? Yes. So that objective path leads really nowhere. It's never finished. And says Kierkegaard, this is because, one, it lacks any absolute starting point. Direct reference to Descartes. You see. And because its logic is able to deal with universal concepts, but not with individual existence. Remember that deductive logic has to have a term universally distributed at least once in a syllogism, if there's going to be any logical connection between the premises. So traditional logic is not a logic of the individual, the unique individual, the unique situation. But in addition, the objective path cheats us out of the passion. Oh yes, cool, calm, enlightenment, reason, you know, cheats us out of the passion which alone provides impetus to faith and love, hope. So you'll find on 297, for instance, a passage in which Kierkegaard makes the point that a logical system is possible. Sure, lots of logical systems are possible. Look at them all. Spinoza, Leibniz, Hegel, Descartes. A logical system is possible, but an existential system is impossible. You see? Because its universal truths can't catch that slippery eel of individual existence.